YouTube, Mo's Nose fam, good people, what's going on? Welcome back to another Friday show. A lot going on. Training camps are in full effect. Listen, it's hot outside. I don't know if y'all can see my little curls is curling up under this hat. We got the guns out, and the gunslingers for the NFL 32 teams are out at training camp. Offense, defense, special teams. Everybody's out. Everybody's practicing. Everybody is getting better. We got a lot to jump into and discuss and talk about on today's show. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start. We're going to continue our conversation um, about the running back position and the value that this position holds in the NFL currently. Um, a lot has gone on since we last spoke. We're going to start with running back Austin Ekeler from the Los Angeles Chargers, holding basically a running back town hall. He got a Zoom license or a Zoom account, whether it was a free one or the paid one. um, Sent out the Zoom link to all the running backs, either via their phone number or email, and had some of the guys come on. Basically, from what we know, some of the key running backs in attendance, other than Austin Ekeler himself, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and Christian McCaffrey. There may have been other running backs present, but those were some of the top guys who were there. Some of those guys that we mentioned that are at the top of that running back market as it pertains to average per year for their particular contracts. And there was a mixed bag. There was a mixed opinion based on what was talked about and what was discussed. Obviously, they were talking about the value of the position, right? How can we change the narrative about our value and what this position means to our individual teams, to the league as a whole? Uh, Personal stories were shared from each running back's experience, either through free agency, after the draft, contract negotiations, what they were being told internally by ownership, by the front office, the general manager, people who are in charge of keeping these players, recruiting these players, signing them to long-term contracts. What were the general feelings? What was the temperature around some of these contracts and some of these deals and how running backs are being viewed? Obviously, again, perception and value of the position as a whole. And then they talked about some strategies. What can we do to change this narrative? What are some things? How can we figure out a way to leverage our position in the NFL, right? One of the things that they talked about were exaggerating injuries during these contract negotiations, exaggerating injuries, using exaggerated injuries as a reason why they can't participate in practice. They can't participate in OTAs or training camp. Obviously, if there's no long-term commitment, there's no guaranteed money in the contract. You don't want to be out on the field, exerting energy, putting your body on the line, and then sustaining a real legitimate injury, and then you're unable to perform. You're unable to secure, that long-term contract. Obviously, there's a negative connotation around that. Obviously, durability is a huge part of why the devaluing of the running back is even a question at this point. Running backs being able to last beyond 3, 4, 5 years. So exaggerating injuries really doesn't help their cause. That's one of the narratives that are out there. It just perpetuates this is the reason why the position is devalued. Um, so it's really a tough situation because we understand what the value of a really really good running back can do. We have a Hall of Fame for a reason. We have accolades like MVP and Pro Bowl and rushing champion and offensive player of the year for a reason. And there've been so many really really dominant dynamite backs that have played in this league. When you think about the Emmett Smiths, when you think about the Barry Sanders, you think about uh, Walter Payton, you think about Sweetness, you think about Jim Brown, Earl Campbell, you think about Bo Jackson, and you talk about Bo Jackson and his injury that derailed his career. So there's it's basically it's six in one hand, half a dozen in the other, right? It's on one hand, yes, we have those dynamite running backs. On the other hand, you have the running backs that get injured and are not the same. Sometimes you have an anomaly. You look at a running back like an Adrian Peterson, dominant in college, came to the NFL, was dominant, suffered an ACL tear, was out a whole year, and came back after that, but returned to dominant form. Most backs don't do that. They don't have that kind of bounce back. So uh, there are scenarios and all different types of ways that uh, you can spin the outlook on the running back position as it is right now. Um, but to say that there isn't value in the position, I don't agree with. When you talk about that, you know, the value of the position being 50-50, you got to look at the mindset that Nick Chubb had in that meeting. And I'm going to quote something that he said because I feel like it's very impactful. He said, right now, there's really nothing we can do. We're kind of handcuffed with the situation. We're the only position where our production hurts us the most. If we go out there and rush for 2,000 yards with so many carries, the next year they're going to say you're probably worn down. It's tough. It hurts us at the end of the day. And he's 1,000% correct. It's the organizations wanting to have their cake and eat it too, right? Every organization wants a running back that can reach 2,000 yards. Uh, Away from what that does for your team as far as winning games. If we're talking about money here, because that's what we're talking about, we're talking about contracts. A team that has a 2,000-yard rusher, that's more jersey sales for that player that go to that team. That's more tickets sold because fans want to come out to games and see if this back, one, can hit 2,000, two, if he can break the record. How many touchdowns is this rusher scoring because he's carrying the ball so much? And then ultimately, how does that affect your team? Is your team winning? Is your team in the playoffs, making a playoff push because of this 2,000-yard back that you have in your backfield? So organizations want that. But as soon as that happens, Nick Chubb is absolutely right. The very next year, the talk is this running back worn down? We got what we needed from him for a year, maybe two. But can we find somebody else to do something similar? And because the list of 2,000-yard backs isn't very full, no, you cannot find a 2,000-yard running back just on the street. And we'll get to some of the thought process as we move further along in this conversation. Let's get a shout out to Bebop Jones, who's in the building. He says, bang, bang, Niner gang. He said the Bo Jackson Nike Air Trainer 3s were fire. I would have to agree with that. Shout out to Fam in the building. Cousin Sid, collective bargaining has to raise the minimum for players because he hasn't kept up with the expansion of the cap well enough. Listen, we're going to dive into that too. We're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into the CBA. We're gonna touch on that a little later because I appreciate that because that's exactly where I'm going in a little bit. And let's talk numbers. This is a numbers conversation. Let's stay on numbers. Let's talk numbers. Shout out to Jeff Darlington. He put this tweet up a couple weeks ago talking about the franchise tag. He said the cost to franchise tag running backs is just so low for teams to pass up, which is why they want to do it so frequently. If you look at the change from 2015 to now, so 2015, and he put this post out in 2023. So in 8 years, the quarterback franchise tag went from 18.5 to 32.4. That's almost a $14 million jump. Okay. For wide receivers in that same 8-year span, Their franchise tag went from 12.8 to 19.7. Again, that's almost a $7 million jump. In 8 years, the tag for running backs has went down from 10.9 to 10.1. $800,000. Now, in the long run, you say $800,000 to these guys because they're making millions. That may not be a lot of money, but the fact that it's trending downward and it's not going up, that's the problem. And then all other tags for other positions are the tag for tight ends is going up because tight ends are getting paid a little bit more now, even though they aren't compensated how they should. The tag for corners is up. The tag for edge rushers is up. So the running back position keeps going down. And part of the problem is this philosophy right here. Now, I love Matt Miller. He is a NFL draft scout specialist. His knowledge of the college game and the college players, and as these guys are coming into the NFL, great guy, great guy. But I think it's this strategy that is hurting the running back because teams may be following this. And he says, I've been saying for years, draft the running back, play the running back. If he's good, tag him for 1 year, and then do the process all over again. So that means you either get 4 or 5 years out of a running back, and then you're on to the next guy. Now, that's cool in the sense of that may work for some players. That may work for some teams. But there are an upper echelon type of running back in the NFL that this should not apply to. It's hard for me to say you draft Christian McCaffrey, you play Christian McCaffrey. If he's good, you franchise tag him once, and then you just let him go to another team, let another team pay him how much money he wants to be paid, and then you just start the process over again and find another Christian McCaffrey. But that's the problem. How do I find another Christian McCaffrey? Where am I finding another Christian McCaffrey? Where am I finding another Derrick Henry? Where am I finding another Nick Chubb? Where am I finding another Saquon Barkley? You may get one of those guys a year. You may get one of those guys every 2 or every 3 years. So that may work for a certain subset of the position after you get to a certain point. But as they say, the cream will always rise to the top. There is a cream of the crop in the running back position. I think Josh Jacobs, I think Saquon Barkley, I think they fit that, right? But because of the numbers, and it's so financially advantageous for teams to not right away go to a long-term deal, there's never any incentive for them to give the long-term deal. There never is. And that's what's really unfortunate. That's what's really unfortunate. And I want to get to, I kind of had it mapped out how I want to get it, but I'm going to jump around a little bit. Because if we're talking about ownership and their idea of how they see the position, let's look no further than what Jim Irsay said a couple days ago. The NFL running back situation, we have a negotiated CBA, shout out to Cousin Sid, that took years of effort and hard work and compromise and good faith by both sides. To say now that a specific player category wants another negotiation after the fact is inappropriate. Some agents are selling bad faith. And I find it ironic that Jim Irsay came out and said this, knowing that 2023 is the final year of Jonathan Taylor's deal. He was drafted in the second round, so he doesn't get the fifth-year option. He gets a 4-year rookie contract, and then he's going to be eligible for a new deal. So Jonathan Taylor's agent chimed in immediately and said, bad faith is not paying your top offensive player. Because I feel like he felt how I felt. And that the timing of this tweet with everything that's going on with Saquon Barkley and everything that's going on with Josh Jacobs, to come out and say this, to make his stance known when the 2024 offseason rolls around and contract negotiations are in talks with Jonathan Taylor. And if you think the players are not keyed in and locked in on this situation, they are. Because Jonathan Taylor had a response to the Matt Miller tweet. And it says, if you're good enough, they'll find you. I've always heard that. If you work hard enough, you succeed. If you succeed, you boost the organization. And then, wait. It doesn't matter. You're a running back. And that's the thought process that these guys have now. That no matter what they do, 2,000 yards, 20 plus touchdowns, 3,000 plus yards from scrimmage, or 2,500, 27, 2,800 all-purpose yards. It doesn't matter what they do. They are not valuable to these organizations after a certain point. And it's super unfortunate. It's super unfortunate. Again, with the back and forth around this particular subject, Jordan Schultz put out a tweet. He said, running backs impact the game in a myriad of ways. They are invaluable to an offense and to any quarterback. The fact the entire position has been this diminished financially is a total disgrace to the game we all love. Aaron Schatz replied, again, the problem isn't the running backs don't have value. The problem is there are too many talented ones. That's the biggest issue, dropping the financial value of the best ones. And I understand what he's saying, that because there are a lot of talented ones, the best ones are hurt by that. And I would agree. I think if you look around the NFL, there are some really, really good backs. Breece Hall is another name that you can put in. Had a really, really hot start to his rookie season. Had an unfortunate tear to his ACL. Looks like he's bouncing back. Somebody posted that he got up to a top speed of 23 miles per hour. So, you know, that top end speed is back. You look at Kenneth Walker in Seattle, Javonte Williams in Denver. Bijan Robinson looks good. Rookie just drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. You got Jahmyr Gibbs. And there are a lot of good running backs around the league. And some of those guys are trying to reach the level of that upper echelon, of the Ecklers, of the Barkleys, of the Jacobs, of the Henrys, of the Christian McCaffreys. But even with how good some of these running backs can be, everything has to work outside of that, right? Everything has to come together on the offense. You got to have a good passing game, got to have a good quarterback, got to have a good offensive line. And some of the upper echelon guys are able to do that and still be great, with maybe one or two of those pieces not being fully up to par. There's a certain line of demarcation where the running backs below that line have to have a great situation. Without a great situation, they're just average backs. They are guys that are in a carousel of, okay, we'll use him in this type of situation. We'll use him in this type of situation. We'll give him 6 carries. We'll give him 8 carries. We'll give that guy 7. And at the end of the day, somehow we'll scrounge up 20 to 25 rushes per game. And whatever we get from these guys is what we get. That works in a place like Kansas City, where you're absolutely terrified of what Patrick Mahomes can do. You're absolutely terrified of Travis Kelce. You're absolutely terrified of what Andy Reid is going to scheme up. that in itself opens up the running game for off injured Jerick McKinnon and rookie, now second year back, Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco, if I look it up, was drafted where? Or was he a UDFA? Let me see. 7th round pick, 251. Running back out of Rutgers. A guy who knew his value, knew his worth, knew that he could play in this game. But it looks like a bunch of other teams didn't see what he knew and what he saw. It only takes one coach, and he found that coach. And he found the offensive system to be successful, and he took advantage of his opportunity, right? But Isaiah Pacheco is a 7th round pick. Isaiah Pacheco doesn't come in with the allure of a Christian McCaffrey or a Saquon Barkley or a Derrick Henry, right? Where our offense is on the shoulders of this guy. And that has to be taken into consideration when you talk about the pedigree of a player. Are you bringing this player into the organization because you're trying to find a way to manufacture offense? Whether you don't have a quarterback, whether you have spotty offensive line play, are you bringing this guy in to shoulder the load of your offense? For Derrick Henry, that's what it was. For Saquon Barkley, that's what it was. The Raiders, with running back issues prior, spent a number 3 overall pick on Trent Richardson, which failed. And then a couple years later, go back to that Alabama well and get Josh Jacobs, trying to figure out that running back position, right? So I think you have to take that in consideration. The pedigree of the player and what you're bringing them in to do. And if they do that and they do it well, compensate them as such. You gave them an opportunity. You took a chance on the player. This is why we're bringing you in. This is what we want you to do. If they do that and they are successful at it, you drafted them in good faith. They responded in good faith by giving you the play that you were looking for from them. Compensate. It's that simple. Compensate. So when we talk about compensation, we talk about how what do we do in this situation? Let me jump to some of the comments. We got E Nice in the building. He says, "Let's go, Mose." He says, "Devin Cook." I think he meant Dalvin Cook. We'll touch on Dalvin Cook in a second. E Nice. Cousin Sis says, "Flip side, challenging economics with zone blocking scheme where Bobby Turner," notice I didn't say the Shanahans, "prove he can take UDFA running backs who can produce 1,000 K yards or be effective even by committee." That's another thing. I talked about that last week because there was another podcast that actually blamed a portion of the devaluing of running backs on the Shanahan system. You know, going back to Mike Shanahan and how he took Terrell Davis, who was essentially not a running back that was on anyone's radar, and turned him into a Hall of Famer. We look at Kyle Shanahan and what he's been able to do with running backs like Raheem Mostert, who prior to coming to the 49ers was an NFL journeyman. I think in his career before the 49ers, he was either, I can't remember the number, it's either 8 or 12 different teams. So yeah, part of that is scheme. I'm glad you said Bobby Turner because it's those position coaches who are the key factor in identifying the player who fits the scheme. So again, that's very specific. That's let me find the player that fits what we do, because if he fits what we do, we know he could be successful. I think if you're able to identify that guy and they come in and they aren't successful, compensate. But then you're really back at square one, because if we talk about the 49ers, you look at Elijah Mitchell. I think Elijah Mitchell could be special, but he can't stay healthy. So it really is a conundrum, because either way you can talk about how the position shouldn't be devalued, but then there are all the examples of, unfortunately, right now, why it is. Eni says 2-year contracts and get your money up. Yeah, we're going to talk about that um, in conjunction with the CBA, all that. This is the NFL. There's talent at every position. Absolutely. I think Lamar Jackson's situation should show the running backs that they don't need it. Asians start pushing for that money. Yeah, you gotta push for the money. At the end of the day, you have to understand and know your worth and go out and get it. So we're talking about going and getting your money. I played a clip last week of Saquon Barkley on the Money Matters podcast, where he talks about he didn't know what he should do. And in the week's time, his agent, conversations with the Giants, they were able to rework a deal. Now, basically, so he didn't sign the franchise tender, but he signed a contract for franchise tender money plus some other stuff. So with the new collective bargaining agreement, teams and agents and players had up until July 17th to get a long-term deal done. After that, the only option is a 1-year deal, whether that's the franchise tag or a modification of that. And what Saquon settled on and what the Giants acquiesced with was a modification of the 1-year deal. So he signs a 1-year deal worth the 10.1 million what the franchise tag is. They gave him a $2 million signing bonus. And then he also has an additional 900,000 in bonuses and incentives that are built into this 1-year deal. So the contract for the year, so he gets $2 million up front, write him a check, Saquon cash that. After taxes, he got whatever he got on that. And then he has a contract that's worth up to 11 million with the additional incentives. Now, I know some people are going to throw the caveat in there. We've heard tons and tons of stories of NFL players who had incentives and bonuses built into their contract, and you get to the end of the season where you need a 10, 20, 30, 40 yards, maybe one touchdown, some sort of variation of not a lot to reach those incentives. And miraculously, that guy either doesn't get played or doesn't get targets or doesn't get touches. And coaches, play callers, they scheme a way for that player not to get the bonus. Whether it's true or not, whether coaches are deliberately not allowing players to get those bonuses, whether it's just happenstance that because this happens throughout the league and there's so many guys with bonuses and incentives that some guys get it and some guys don't, and it kind of looks a little fishy. The fact that that narrative is out there, some people could bring that up as a problem, right? But I think this was a great middle ground for both parties. This is a really, really good middle ground. You get the $2 million signing bonus. You sign for the amount of the tag, but put some stuff in my contract and let me go get it. And then at the end of this year, if I go get all those incentives and bonuses and I get all of that 900,000 on top of what the salary is, either at the end of that year when I'm an unrestricted free agent, either you're going to pay me my money or somebody else is going to pay me my money. But I showed that I'm reliable, I'm durable, I can get through a season. Now I got 2 seasons in a row where I've been cooking y'all. Y'all see my body, y'all see I'm in good shape. Let's get after it. So I think it's a good middle ground. I think good faith by the Giants. They couldn't give him anything more than that, as far as long-term contract, big money. Um, and Saquon responded to that. He said that, I had to follow my heart. I feel like when he said what he said on the Money Matters podcast, he was really telling you guys, I have to think about it because I'm thinking about the position. I'm thinking about my brothers around the league who could be going through this as well. But y'all know I love the game of football. Y'all know I love my teammates. I love this organization. I don't want to do anything to hurt this team or to bring negativity to this team as we're starting to build and starting to develop this roster for the upcoming season. I don't think he wanted to get into all of that. And that's why ultimately he figured out a way with his agent, with the Giants, to get this deal done. So excited for him. Josh Jacobs put out a tweet not too long ago that says, common sense isn't really common. Now, a lot of people said that could have been directed to the Raiders. And absolutely it could be. Because they, found a way to modify the franchise tag and give Saquon that 1-year deal. I'm sure Jacobs could be thinking that. If I'm playing contrarian, I don't know if maybe that might have been an indirect shot at Saquon Barkley. Because if we're on this running back symposium, talking about our worth, talking about our value, why then after that would you acquiesce to this modified franchise tender? If we're really going to push for our worth and our value, why give in there? We don't know. I don't want to put that on Josh's jacket, but to play contrarian, maybe. I think that's directed more towards the Raiders, to see if there's some type of modified 1-year deal that they can come up with that could satisfy Josh for this season. And even if he's fed up, frustrated with the situation, gets his money for a year, put some more good film out there, put some more good tape on the field, and then next year says, I don't even want to negotiate with you guys. I'm not coming back to Vegas. I'm taking my talents elsewhere, and go gets the bag from another team. He could do that. So we'll have to wait and see how Josh decides to handle this. I hope he doesn't sit out this year because he is one of the exciting young players that we have in the NFL. So hopefully they can figure something out. But going back to that CBA that Cousin Sid was talking about, back in 2019, there was some push amongst the NFLPA with the CBA to make some changes to how things were being done. Because ultimately, and I'm going to say this just as my personal opinion, I blame the quarterbacks. And not the guys in the league now, not the guys who are getting the contracts now. I blame the young quarterbacks. I blame the rookie quarterbacks. I blame the guys like Sam Bradford. I blame guys like Jamarcus Russell. I blame them dudes. I blame them dudes who came out of college, all the hype, all the allure, ready to take the NFL by storm, holding these NFL teams hostages as a number one overall pick, getting 60 and 70 and 80, up to almost up to $100 million deals as a rookie who's never took a snap in the NFL. And after the Jamarcus Russell debacle, after the Sam Bradford injury, after injury, after injury, what did they decide to do? They decided to implement the rookie wage scale. And over time, as we've seen, the rookie wage scale was introduced in 2011. Over time, we've seen that the rookie wage scale does not benefit the skill position group, particularly the running backs. There was a quote within that article that says running backs are hurt the most by the rookie wage scale because their most productive or most sought after years are those young years when they're 20, 21, 22, 23. Young, fast, healthy, not a lot of wear and tear on the body, not being hit by 250-pound linebackers and 300-pound defensive tackles. So the years for them to really cash in are hampered by the rookie wage scale. But if we go back to Matt Miller's strategy, draft him, play him. If he's good, franchise him once, draft him again. Because you can franchise him at a number that's beneficial because it's going down, and then get rid of them the following season and do the whole process over again. So the rookie wage scale does not benefit running backs at all. So they've been trying to figure out a way to change that for certain positions. NFL is not having it. They're not hearing none of it. And that was something that was brought up in 2019. We're in 2023, and nothing has moved the needle towards that. So as of a response to that and finding ways to where we can change that, I don't know where we stand. Changing the rookie wage scale for running backs. I mean, I feel like using the word discriminatory is too hard. That's too much. But at some point, other position groups are saying, wait a minute, why do they get preferential treatment and we don't, particularly wide receivers? But then if the running backs and the wide receivers do it, tight end's gonna have something to say. Then offensive tackles. Wait a minute, we got to protect your most valuable asset, which we know is your quarterback. We shouldn't be on the wage scale. And then we go back to maybe we get rid of the rookie wage scale, but you risk these teams giving a quarterback who's a quarterback like a Mitchell Trubisky $100 million contract right out of college, and he's never taken a snap in the NFL. I'm sorry to throw Mitch's name in there, but I'm trying to think of a guy who was drafted high and didn't live up to the hype. He's one of the most recent ones. Could you imagine giving Jameis Winston $100 million contract? Baker Mayfield $100 million contract right out of high school? I mean, not high school, right out of college into the NFL, never taking a snap? I can't see it. Can't see it. Can't see going back to something like that. E-Night says it's a business. You win some, you lose some. Sorry to say it. It is. And I think that's one of the things that Saquon Barkley said. He said, understanding I had to follow my heart, what I felt was right for me, what I felt was right for the team, and also understanding that it's a business. At a certain point, like Nick Chubb said, there is nothing I can do. My value is going to be what my value is going to be. It's up to me to kind of keep that high so that the team can't dictate what that should be. But then also, because I didn't get a long-term deal done, there's not much I can do outside of a one-year deal. And I don't want to miss a year playing. I don't want to miss time with my team. I don't want to miss being able to play this game that I love. So, like I said earlier, it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in another. The running backs really are not in a good position. All they can do is play and dominate and stay healthy. And I think if they can figure out a way to do that, play, dominate, and stay healthy, then eventually we can kind of turn this thing around. Because I don't think there's going to be a change to the rookie wage scale. I really don't. I don't think there's going to be a change to the CBA with how the contracts are structured, and if a long-term deal isn't done by, so I don't think they're going to make a change in that. Um, and then the averages for the franchise tender are based on the contracts that are currently out there. So unless CMC, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, unless all those guys ask to renegotiate their contracts to get more money to increase that average, which you're asking 5 teams to increase the pay of a position that they don't already value. I don't think that's going to happen. Um, but hopefully it turns around, and these running backs start to get some of the love that they deserve. Um, moving on, other news. We're talking about money. We're talking about contracts. A couple players got the bag. We're going to start with the biggest bag. Justin Herbert resetting the quarterback franchise record quarterback market. Um, he now overtakes Lamar Jackson for uh, highest average per year, signing a 5-year extension worth $262.5 million. The contract includes a no trade clause, 133.7 million fully guaranteed, and 193.7 million injury guarantees. Herbert secured the bag. Now, for Herbert, he's got to produce. He's in a tough division. You got Patty twice. You got Sean Payton and Russell twice. You got Jimmy G twice. I ain't going to throw no shade at Jimmy. At some point, you may have to see the Buffalo Bills. At some point, you may have to see the Miami Dolphins. At some point, you may have to see the New York Jets. Herbert has to produce. Does that mean he has to win a Super Bowl this year? No. Doesn't mean he has to win a Super Bowl ever. Not really. We understand that the quarterback market is different. You have to have a quarterback. You don't have to have a CMC or a Nick Chubb or a Derrick Henry to win the Super Bowl. But you got to have a competent quarterback. If you don't have a competent quarterback, your defense has to be one of the greatest of all time. And you got to have a running game to go with that. But if you do have that quarterback, that kind of solves all your needs. But he has Austin Eckler. He's got wide receivers, offensive line. I think the only thing that is going to continue to help him, because Herbert showed that he's tough, he shows that he can win games, that Chargers defense has to stay healthy. If that Chargers defense can stay healthy, then I think this contract is well worth it for a young quarterback. And besides all of the value of the contract and the worth and is it deserved, I'm just happy that he got the bag because he should have been a Dolphin, but they took Tua. And I doing my pre-draft analysis as someone who follows the Oregon Ducks, I had always been a big fan of Justin Herbert, and I could not understand all the negative just crap that he was getting about him not being accurate, about his poor decision making, about this, about that. He doesn't have a good base, and they found so many ways to try to tear this young man down, and he stepped in as a rookie and was lights out. I've always thought he was a good quarterback. I love Justin Herbert. I wanted him to try to find a way to fall to the 49ers, especially with all that trash that they were talking about him. That didn't happen. But I'm so glad he's able to come in, prove his worth as one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, and get a contract that was deserving of so. Shout out to a division rival, Budda Baker. As one of those guys that, you like playing against because he plays the game the right way. He had asked for a trade during the offseason. The Cardinals did not acquiesce and give in to that request. However, they did rework his contract, slide him a smooth little $300,000. I hope they didn't get. I mean, I know they probably don't have that. I mean, being facetious right now. I know they don't have the cash on hand, but I hope they didn't give him a check for 300,000. 300,000, yo, just give him the cash. Give, I know y'all owners got money. Y'all out here billionaires. You could get $300,000 cash, slide that to Buddha under the table, untaxable. Like, come on, yo. I hope they didn't give him a check and then put the W-2 and get the taxes off that. Give him that cash. But they gave him a $300,000 signing bonus and added an additional $2.4 million in bonuses and incentives for this season. Another player who got an extension is defensive end Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. So he got a 1-year extension. So that extends his contract through 2025. They added $21 million in new money over the life of the contract. He got an $8 million signing bonus this year and $5 million in new money for the 2023 season. So, excited for guys getting their money, getting paid. Again, we talked about the running backs. So it's kind of weird talking about the running backs not getting paid and seeing all these other guys getting money. But again, it's going to come for the running backs. It has to. And then E. Nice, he had mentioned Dalvin Cook. Looks like Dalvin Cook might be going to the Jets. He's been putting some things out there saying that he's visiting New York. Aaron Rodgers recently finalized his deal where he took a pay cut, shaving $35 million off of the book for the Jets. So, yeah, he visited the team. He said he felt like, after this visit, I don't think I'll leave New York without a contract. And now that is dependent on how they feel about him. But you got Breece Hall coming back from the torn ACL. You want to make sure, you kind of extend the longevity of at least his rookie contract. You don't want to overwork him and kind of wear him down because you saw how special he could be. But then, you add in somebody like Dalvin Cook, who, is explosive out of the backfield, can offer you additional, utility as a pass catcher out of the backfield. I think if this Jets team adds Dalvin Cook, they are going to be really scary because you got Dalvin Cook, you got Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers is making crazy connections with Garrett Wilson. He's got Allen Lazard. He's got Randall Cobb. So he's got the weapons on the outside. Corey Davis is still there. This Jets offense could be really, really special. We know the Jets defense is going to be good, but now we can kind of add some of that, pizzazz and spice to the offense with adding Dalvin Cook. So again, the teams that need running back will value it. Do they need it? No. I think it's just an added luxury, just to kind of not have Breece shoulder the load coming back from the ACL, no matter how good he looks. And it makes their offense more dynamic. So looking forward to seeing that. In other news, talking about new contracts, we're going to stay here. There are some guys who are holding out for new contracts, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. First, we'll start in Kansas City with defensive tackle Chris Jones. This is a big one. Chris Jones, to me, while I'm a huge fan of Aaron Donald, I feel like for the past 2 seasons, Chris Jones has been the best defensive tackle in football. What he's been able to do up front on that defensive line for the Chiefs has been really, really special. And now he wants to be compensated like the best interior defender in this league. I think rightfully so. He's been a part of this team, taking them to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them. Obviously, a lot of that goes to Patrick Mahomes and leading this team, leading this offense. But what Chris Jones has been able to do as an anchor for that defense cannot be understated. Um, so he's one of those guys that's holding out and looking for a long-term contract. I feel like he's deserving. So we'll have to see um, where those two end up. Currently, they said that his camp and the Chiefs are far apart on the deal. So will Chris Jones sit out any part of the regular season? That remains to be seen. Next player sitting out, obviously near and dear to my heart for my 49ers, is Nick Bosa. He is in his, what is it? Nick is in going into what, year 4? Yeah, Nick is going into year 4. Or is it 5? Hold on. Where Nicky at? Here he is. 2019. So yeah, he's going into he's year 5. So 2023 is year 5. So it's the 5th year option. So beyond this year, no long-term deal, no guaranteed money. So Nick Bosa has not reported to training camp. Chris Jones has not, and neither has Nick Bosa. Two of, if not the best defenders at their positions. Chris Jones, best defensive tackle. Nick Bosa, the best defensive end. This one to me isn't as hard. I don't know what the hiccup with the Chiefs are, but the 49ers knew this was going to happen. Thankfully, we lucked up and were able to draft Nick Bosa because the Cardinals took Kyler Murray number 1. So because of the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo the prior year, we weren't even supposed to be number 2 overall. We weren't even supposed to be number 2 overall, but we got number 2. And that's where I'm going, cuz I was bringing our conversation to the live. That's exactly where I'm going. We had no business being at number 2, but we were at number 2. Nick Bosa fell into our lap. Perfect. Came in right away, did Nick Bosa things. Even after tearing his ACL, came back, won Defensive Player of the Year. We knew this was coming. Drafting him number 2 overall. One of the best pass rushers coming out of the college game we've seen in the history of the league. We knew he was going to come in, light it up, and eventually we were going to have to pay him. What is the holdup? I'm hoping, and this may be me just being optimistic, call it a homer, call it whatever you want. I just think it's small, little minute details. It's the little stuff. An incentive here, a bonus here, minor stuff. You're going to have to pay him top of the market. You're going to have to reset that edge rusher market. We know that. Whether you do 5 years, 6 years, 4 years, whatever, figure all that out. Hopefully it gets done over the weekend. And, Nick Bosa will be reporting to training camp Monday or Tuesday. Pads come on Monday, so maybe he's just waiting for that. I don't need to be there with just my shorts and my shirt. They know I'm healthy. They know I keep my body right. I be in Florida with Joey and my dad, getting busy in this hot sun. Thankfully, we didn't have any, medical emergencies and nothing like that. But y'all know I'm coming in ready to go. Faster, stronger, a little bit more agile, a little bit more flexible than last year. Coming off my Defensive Player of the Year. Y'all know I'm coming back to hunt these quarterbacks. Just pay me my money. And like Sid said, the 49ers don't have any leverage whatsoever. We don't have any. Joey got to get his money. And then finally, just some last minute things we'll touch on before we wrap this show up. The unfortunate, it happens every year. Training camp injuries. as teams get on the field, as teams start running full speed and putting this work in, grinding through the dog days of summer, injuries happen. Deron Payne, Washington Commanders, suffered a minor toe injury. So he's going to be sitting out a few practices. Garrett Wilson, who had been cooking with Aaron Rodgers, back and forth battles have now become legendary with some of the clips that have been posted on Twitter and Instagram. Him and Sauce Gardner going back and forth, one making a play, then the other one making a play. It's just been really, really amazing to see. He suffered a ankle injury, which doesn't seem too severe, but the Jets want to be cautious with that. Chauncey Gardner Johnson was one of the first that I heard a couple days ago. Eagles fans, why do y'all have to be the way that y'all are? Just because he didn't stay with the Eagles and he might have said a few things about y'all don't have to wish that his season is over and laugh at the fact that he got injured. Why are y'all like this? And y'all might not want to be liked by people, but that's why people don't like y'all. I actually like the Eagle players. Darius Slay, Fletcher Cox, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Jalen Hurts. How can you not like Jalen Hurts? Huge fan of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I like the Eagle players. It's the fan. Like, why do y'all have to be like that? Thankfully, his injury is not too severe. It was not a torn ACL. He'll sit out a few practices, do a little bit of rehab. He should be back sooner rather than later. Unfortunate news for Jalen Ramsey. He also went down with an injury. Thankfully, it wasn't a torn ACL, but it was a complete tear to his meniscus, which he was operated on today. He was in surgery. After that surgery, the reports came out that it was a full meniscus repair. So he's going to be out a few months. He may not be back until December, which is a crushing blow for this Dolphins team. They were gearing up to make a run. Having Jalen Ramsey there for the full season, September, October, November, kind of building chemistry with that back end of that Dolphins defense, I think would have did a world of benefit for them. So unfortunately, he won't be there for a majority of the regular season. As long as they can, keep the ship tight, win a few games early, put themselves in good position, he should be back by December for the playoff push. And that should be an important and a beneficial reinforcement for them getting back. We talk about quarterbacks resetting the market. It was also scary to see that Joe Burrow went down and had to be carted off. Thankfully, it was just a calf strain. He had been dealing with some issues with his calf anyway. So it was just a calf strain, not a ACL injury for Joe Burrow. So thankfully, all the injuries that have been reported so far have not been catastrophic injuries, have not been season enders, just little minor tweaks here or there. But it's to be expected. Hopefully, we don't hear of any severe injuries. Unfortunately, if we're being realistic, that is not the case. You just hate to see when it happens. And again, thankfully for all these guys except for Jalen Ramsey, it's not too severe. But even Jalen won't miss the entire season. If he can come back and provide anything in that playoff push for the Dolphins, I'm sure they would be happy to have him. Sid says, highest paid defensive player ever. Yep, he should be. He definitely should be. There should be no if, ands, or buts about that. The missus is in the building. Mrs. Mose knows. She downstairs right now cooking up some turkey wings. She got them in the oven. She's gonna make some smothered turkey wings. Woo, boy, I'm eating good. I've been doing good all week, so don't mind the dinner. It's turkey wings. They ain't fried. I mean, let me be honest. I don't really want the turkey wings, so I got some pork chops. I'm gonna fry them up, but I'm gonna use the same smothered gravy on the pork chop. Listen, I've been doing good all week. Me and Max been in the gym, working out. I've been getting him ready for basketball. I've been trying to shed some of this weight. Y'all know how I'm doing it. Let me have my Friday, yo. I don't want y'all in my comments talking about what I'm eating and all this other kind of stuff. Let me have my Friday with my missus. We're gonna get some drinks popping. We're gonna watch some movies. We're gonna eat some good food. So she down there busting it down in the kitchen right now. So I'm gonna have to hurry up and get on up out of here because she doing her thing down there. Listen, I love and appreciate y'all. Thank you, everybody who tuned in, who watched the show live. Thank you for everybody who's going to be watching the playback. Listen, if you're new to Mo's Knows, welcome. As I always say, once you're here, once you've tuned into just one show, whether it's for 5 minutes or 50 minutes, listen, you're part of the family now. You're a part of the Mo's Knows fam. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe right here at Mo's Knows. You can find me on Twitter and IG. What Mo's Knows, all one word, WhatMosknows. And you can find me on TikTok, Mo's Knows. I'm getting ready to start putting together my over and unders for team wins. And then, throughout the season, I do my weekly picks every week, posting that up on Twitter and on the YouTube as well. Again, love and appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. Try to stay warm in this heat. I mean, stay warm. That's stupid. Try to stay cool in this heat. Get your fans on. Get your AC on. Listen, call somebody up who you haven't talked to in a while. Tell them you love them. Tell them you miss them. Reminisce on the good times. Try to, reach out to someone, uplift them, make their day better. Listen, we need that in this world. So you guys have a great week, great weekend, great rest of the week. And I will catch you guys next Friday. Peace.